Well, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, I should say. I want to welcome everyone to the Medical Marijuana Awareness Seminar. Today's subject is on arthritis, an important subject for a lot of people. I know that it's something that's uh, been around for a long time. I know that especially as you get to be senior citizens, it's something that it becomes part of your life. And I know that medical cannabis has done a wonderful job of helping a lot of people get their lives back. And that's what today's webinar is all about. As you know, these webinars are here to be educational. We really aren't here to give out doctors information, but we are here to refer you to doctors. And more importantly, the goal of our webinars is to really help you get your questions answered. So please feel free to answer questions. You'll see at the bottom of your screen, down over here, a little Q&A tab. Feel free to ask questions. We'll answer them if we can during the webinar itself or afterwards. And there's no dumb questions. I mean, this is really here to really open this up and let people be able to see what's there. Additionally, please feel free to pass information about what we're doing on to your friends and family, because we have other webinars that are coming up, and I think it's something, each of them addresses a different lifestyle medical condition, and we want to be able to help them as well. Today's webinar is, I have a lady that I've had the pleasure of working with for a number of years. And a lady who's actually been around since the beginning that Surterra Wellness began. And we've done a number of webinars together. I'm really happy that she's joined us. She's an expert in the field of medical cannabis, and she's helped with open not only a number of dispensaries, but deal with a number of doctors and also deal with a number of patients. So I'd like to introduce you to Kim Hawks. So Kim, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mark. And thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity to help co-sponsor this important discussion. My name is Kim Hawks, and I'm the Director of Physician Management for Surterra Wellness. Surterra Wellness is one of the original 5 licensees to cultivate, produce, and dispense medical cannabis in Florida. So we've been around since the beginning of the program, and I joined in spring 2017 in our community marketing efforts out in the field. Doing events and trying to get the word out to patients, physicians, just about everybody. But I was blessed with that opportunity with Surterra after I left the Office of Medical Marijuana Use within the Florida Department of Health, where I ran their external affairs function at the beginning of the program. So that's a little bit about me and my background. Live up in North Florida with my husband and 2 girls, and have been running around the country doing one of the most wonderful jobs I never knew I've always wanted. So cannabis patient advocacy. So
You definitely have traveled the state and helped a lot of people. I know you've done a lot of webinars. I'd like to introduce or right now move to a part where we do have a slide presentation. What we're not trying to do is make this slideware. We're not trying to give you a lot of information just through slideware. We're trying to use these slides to have some background, to further discussion and give some data about medical marijuana and also how it affects arthritis. So let me go over to a slide presentation, if you don't mind. Share that with you. Here we go. There we go. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, I just want to have everybody understand our goal here is to really provide safe, supported, judgmental-free areas to be able to discuss medical cannabis. It's something that's important to everybody, and everybody's looking for where they can go to find out information. But I also want to stress, please ask questions. That's what we're here for. And as always, we work with physicians. I work with a number of medical marijuana doctors, as well as just doctors in general here in Florida. And so please, anytime you're doing something that major, make sure you're consulting your medical marijuana doctor as well as your medical doctor to be able to get some help. Our goal here is to bring together advocates, patients, students, researchers to be able to talk about various subjects. So with that, let's chat a little bit about arthritis. I know if you have arthritis, you definitely know what it is. I do want to point out that there's a couple of different kinds of arthritis that's out there. One of them is called rheumatoid arthritis, referred to as RA. That's one type of arthritis that people see, and it's characterized a lot by especially the joint linings being inflamed. And this is one that restricts your movement. It does cause a lot of pain. Disability comes along with it. It's something that it's just not fun. The other is osteoarthritis. I'm having trouble pronouncing that one. And that again is it's a use of loss of cartilage in joints in your hands, your hips, your knees, things like that. Underlying conditions that also are involved here are fibromyalgia and different others, lupus conditions, and injuries to the joint. There's a number of things that bring arthritis into play on the playing field. What do they have in common? You have joint pain. You may have some redness in the hands. You might have minor, sometimes you might have major swelling, and you have a sensation of heat. Arthritis is something that restricts what you do, causes pain, and it's something that really is something that you'd love to have go away, but unfortunately gets into your life, restricts your lifestyle. Does medical marijuana? I'm sorry, go
Marc,
ahead.
I don't know if you know this or if our audience is aware of this, but 23% of the United States suffers from some form of arthritis. That's 54 million Americans. And in the Florida Medical Marijuana Program, chronic non-malignant pain is still popping up as the most predominantly recommended for medical cannabis in Florida. So it's something to keep top of mind. And we know through multiple medical studies that most of chronic pain is caused by inflammation, about 80%, which is another symptom. So just touching on it, honestly, this condition affects so many more of our friends and neighbors than we really know.
I know that I'm older now, but when I was younger, I hurt my knees and I hurt my hands. And obviously over the years, those injuries have resulted in arthritis in those joints. And so it's something that does come along, and being able to control it is really important, just to be able to hold a remote control and just be able to live your life. I know that that's something that's out there. I didn't realize that the number was 23%. That's a pretty large number.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's talk about does medical marijuana work? SAFE, the Americans for Safe Access to Medical Marijuana, has really pointed out that cannabis is very effective in the treatment, especially of rheumatoid arthritis. It's been demonstrated to help with mobility, your morning stiffness, your inflammation. There's a number of studies that are out there. In fact, it's better than a lot of your anti-inflammatory drugs, your ibuprofens and things like that. Cannabis has been proven to be a lot more effective. I'm going to point out there's a number of studies that are here. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them. But you will get, as a follow-up to this webinar, you'll get an email, and in that email will be a list of all the resources or all the links, and you'll be able to check out each of these studies if you're interested in following up. Plus, there's a number of other studies. We only listed about a quarter of the number of studies that are out there. And you may ask, how come you've never heard of these studies? That's because cannabis is a Schedule I drug in the United States. Marijuana is considered to be illegal. So you cannot do studies on medical marijuana in the United States. So every one of these studies that you find comes from outside the United States. Most of these came from Israel, although some of them come from England, some of them come from Germany and from Spain. But it's outside the United States. Cannabis is studied quite aggressively. In fact, Canada has just announced 2 days ago a whole lab that's going to be studying the effectiveness of medical marijuana on a number of lifestyle medical conditions. So there is research out there that shows this works. I think people ask, how do we know it works? Show me the proof. Here is the proof. Again, a lot of this is being done outside the United States, not inside the United States, I guess, fortunately or unfortunately.
Well, and Marc, you found a really poignant point there, that a lot of that research is having to happen outside of the United States, which is why a lot of cannabis companies like Surterra Wellness, Parallel, as our corporate name is called, Parallel across the United States is doing a lot of research on our own. We just partnered with the University of Pittsburgh up there, so we're pretty excited about that. Yeah, it's just the necessity of the marketplace, to be honest. But CBD, to your other point, is one of the most powerful natural anti-inflammatories. So, and I love this testimonial that you've got up on the screen.
Yeah, in our travels, we did a number of seminars. These webinars are an outreach from when we used to do live physical seminars. And we did 135 seminars before we had to basically stop doing them because of COVID. But a couple of years ago, we did one almost every quarter in the villages. And Barrett is one of the people that helps us coordinate those seminars in the villages. And about 3 years ago, he came to us and wanted to tell me about his Nana. And Nana was when she actually got involved in medical cannabis. She was 88 years young. She lives in the villages. She's had a severe case of arthritis for a long time. She could not hold a remote control and change the channels on the TV. She could not go out and eat because she couldn't hold the utensils. And she couldn't eat properly. She had trouble holding a cup. She was just embarrassed about being in public. And so she led kind of a reclusive life. Not only that, she had a hard time sleeping. And she had tried a number of things. She had gone to the doctor. She had gone through high and low dosage pharma products. Her life was miserable. And Barrett had helped us set a few of these up. And so he asked her to come into a wet medical marijuana seminar. And I got a kick out of what she said. She said basically, she kicked the cigarette habit in her 20s, and she was worried about that smoking a joint might lead her back to becoming a Marlboro man again. I mean, the lady has a great sense of humor. And once we explained to her that maybe she didn't have to smoke it, she could take sublingual drops or something like that. Her and her husband, who was referred to as Pop Pop, attended one of the webinars. And it was a free informational seminar. His words, Pop Pop's word to me was he was blown away. We got her a medical cannabis card. 2 weeks later, she began taking the medication. Literally, within the next couple of weeks, it took about 3 weeks, she had her first full night's interrupted sleep in the longest time that she could remember. And she was actually, when she came back and she was talking to us, she was actually crying about what it had done for her, because she had just never had a good night's sleep. Again, it's a long time. Her pain had gone away down substantially. She was also, not only was she have pain, but she was also starting to use some topical ointments that was helping her a little bit as well. But what happened was she got her movement back in her hands. She got movement back in her arms. She had a shoulder that was giving her a lot of pain, and the shoulder pain went away. And that's not related to arthritis. It was something else. And this is the entourage effect of medical cannabis, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But Nana went back to got her life back. She went back to playing cards again. She went back, she actually went and played some golf. She still plays golf. At night, she's actually 89 years old now. But I'm saying that she basically got her life back by doing this. And she's a little reluctant to get on a webinar like this and talk about it, but she definitely wants people to know her biggest regret was she waited until she was 88 years old to find this. She said, I probably lost 10 years of my life just not being able to be out with people before I really discovered this. And it's something I want to point out. We run into stories like this all the time. And these are real life people with real life conditions. And it's something that you should consider take seriously, because it's something that if you're suffering from arthritis, it's something that can help you. Kim, you got any comments?
No, absolutely. And I apologize if my email notifications keep dinging. I'm so sorry about that. But, I am incredibly moved by Nana's story. We all have a Nana. And I had a papa who suffered greatly from arthritis. He had brain surgeries. He went in all different directions trying to change the lightning rod strokes of his pen. And I recognize his handwriting every Christmas, every birthday. When he would write us cards, but he struggled and he didn't have access to cannabis. And now, having worked in cannabis about 5 years now, I know what it can do for arthritic patients. So I get so jazzed when I hear stories like this. It gives you goosebumps.
Yeah, and there's we have a number of testimonials. I just thought I would point this out. Yeah. One of the questions everyone might ask is, how does it work? Why does it work? Why does it help my arthritis? Is this just some witch doctor science over on the side or not? And I really want to point out there's inside everyone's body, there's an endocannabinoid system. And it's a very important system to your body. In fact, it's one of the most important systems in your body. Fundamentally, what the endocannabinoid system is a series of receptors. They're called CB1 receptors and they're called CB2 receptors, and they're located literally throughout your whole body. And what's interesting about these receptors is that they control your mood, they control your appetite, they control inflammation. Underline the word inflammation, especially with an arthritis discussion. Your immune responses. This basically is how your body controls itself. And what they found out when studying medical cannabis, especially the Israelis who led the research in this, is they found out that CBD, CBN, THC fit like a lock and key with the CB1 and CB2 receptors and work with the endocannabinoid system to help your body regulate itself. And what's interesting is the CB1 receptors are primarily found in your brain and in your nervous system. They're the ones that are in light blue. You can see those over here. And the CB2 receptors are primarily found in your organs. They're associated with your immune system. They're associated with a lot of what I call your gut reactions to what's out there. And how they work is that your brain produces, when your brain realizes there's a problem, your brain produces endocannabinoids. And those endocannabinoids are then sent in through your blood system to that part of your body that needs help. And that's how your appetite, your pain, your pleasures, your immune system, mood, and all that's regulated. So this is a natural body function that they found out that was out there. What they've also found out that there are plant-derived cannabinoids, and that's what you typically find just for your THC, your CBD, your CBNs. This is where the dispensaries come into play. And those also complement your endocannabinoid system, and that they get triggered, that your brain can trigger those, again, to be able to help your endocannabinoid system. It's interesting to point out is as you get older, like I'm a senior citizen, that what you find out is that your body doesn't produce endocannabinoids like it did when I was 20 or 30 years younger. And so by being able to do this, I'm actually helping my body heal itself. Now, I do want to point out that there's a number of synthetic pharma-based products that are out there. I want to let you know that they exist. I guess there's a lot of scientists that believe they can reproduce an apple. They think they can reproduce a banana. These synthetic cannabinoids have a number of they do have some properties to be able to help you, but be careful because a lot of them, especially something like Marinol, are basically THC only. They don't have any CBD in it. And they have some very adverse side effects. So I just want to let you know they're there. I'm not a fan of synthetic cannabinoids. I don't like them, but they are there. And I just want to let people know that they exist because you may hear about them. That's out there. And
cannabinoids can honestly, like Marinol, to your point, Mark, can make you quite nauseous. The nausea reported with synthetic cannabinoids is pretty horrible. But there's a CBD product in the pharmaceutical market by GW Pharmaceuticals, Epidiolex. And it's one of those products where, again, the phytocannabinoid was naturally cultivated and responsibly and compliantly produced together. We can get to that part.
Yeah, exactly.
You know where my preference lies.
Right. But I just want to let people know that it exists. But how this all works is your brain has your brain-derived endocannabinoids, or you can get your cannabinoids from a plant. When you ingest it into your body, the cannabis gets stored in your fatty acids. There's a perception that the CBD or the THC or the medical cannabis products you're taking is a perception that goes right into the CB1, the CB1 and CB2 receptors. It does not do that at all. It goes into your fatty acids, stored in your fatty acids. Think of your fatty acids like a battery. And when your neurons see there's a problem, so your brain says, gee, your nervous system tells your brain there's a problem here, there's inflammation like in my left knee. What happens is your neurons turn those fatty acids into what they call long chain fatty acids, and that distributes the endocannabinoids through your blood system to that part of your body. And that's how cannabis works. It is your own body producing medicine for itself. And that's very, very important to understand. That is your body producing your own medicine. That has two effects. First of all, that no one has ever died from using cannabis or taking cannabis or medical cannabis. And people ask the question, why? And the answer is because it's your own body producing medicine for itself. There's no foreign substances coming in there. And your body's not going to produce something in your body that's going to hurt it. In fact, if anything, it's going to help it. So one of the reasons why no one's ever died is because it's your body, it's a natural substance working with itself. The other is that this explains something called the entourage effect. In the case of Nana, she was taking it for her arthritis to get rid of her inflammation and help it there. But she found out the pain in her shoulder went away. Well, your brain knows where your problems are. You don't need a doctor. You don't need a doctor to tell your brain where the problems are. Your brain knows that. And it says, gee, if there's a problem here, I'll go solve and work on that problem as well as the other problem that's out there. So it can chew gum and walk at the same time. So a lot of people who take medical cannabis for one reason find they have another nagging problem that they've had for a long time, like a shoulder in Nana's case, that all of a sudden starts getting better and she all of a sudden gets the use and function of that back. And that's called the entourage system. So understanding this really understands the key to why medical cannabis works.
Absolutely. And Mark, to your point about the body not producing something that's going to harm it, there are actually no CB1 or CB2 receptors in the part of your brain that control your cardiovascular or pulmonary system, so your respiratory system rather. So you are not going to overdose at all. There is no, you cannot. It is nigh impossible.
Well, and I think you compare that to the opioids and things that you take. What I love is when you get into these pharma drugs, and then at the end of it, even on commercials on TV, they have 10 or 15 seconds about how you're taking these drops to help your eyes, and the next thing you know, you're gonna potentially dead. So I'll leave that one alone. I just get a kick out of those. But cannabis is not is safe. No one's ever died from it, and I think that explains the reason why. But let's explain to people what it is. Kim, see, what is CBD and what is THC?
So CBD and THC are the most widely studied cannabinoids in the cannabis plant. There are over 100 different cannabinoids that are currently in the plant, many that are being studied at this time, but CBD and THC have the predominant breadth of that medical research. And CBD and THC kind of work in a yin and yang together. So pardon that analogy, but they truly do. They're sister cannabinoids. And CBD is a very powerful anti-inflammatory, as we talked about, anti-spasmodic. So for our motor disorders, pardon me, it's a very powerful anti-spasmodic as well. THC is the, also I should say, CBD is the non-psychoactive cannabinoid of those two sisters. So THC is the more psychoactive. It has great sedating effects, pain relieving effects, but it is that psychoactive cannabinoid that most regulations and things seek to limit or define. And that's actually how cannabis and hemp, just as a quick side note, that's how they are differentiated, is by how much THC is within that specific plant. So if it's less than 0.3% THC, it's classified as hemp by our nation's laws. If it's above 0.3%, it would be considered cannabis.
Yeah, exactly. That's an important distinction. Now, when I got involved in medical cannabis, which is a little over 6 years ago, all I heard about was sativa and indica, sativa and indica. There are, and when you go to, I know I've toured a number of the dispensary grow facilities, you can physically see the difference between a sativa and an indica plant. But things have changed a lot in the last 6 years, where it's more than just sativa and indica. A lot of it has to do with the strains and the terpenes. But why don't you explain a little bit about sativa and indicas, and then we'll get into the strains and terpenes.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So there are the physical attributes to your point there, but mostly strains are differentiated between their terpene profiles. And we're getting now into terpenes, as Marc's already hit on the entourage effect. And that really is the culmination of all the cannabinoids and the terpenes that are at play in your cannabis medicine. So when I say cannabinoids and terpenes, I mean like, and I use this analogy often. So Marc, I know you've heard it a couple of times, but if the endocannabinoid system in your body is the orchestra of all of your systems, the endocannabinoid system is rather the conductor of those systems. And the cannabinoids are like the baseline and the terpenes are more like the melody over top. So when we talk about cannabinoids and their various basic properties, building block properties, anti-spasmodic, anti-inflammatory, things like that, the terpenes over top of that baseline really are the more sedating effects, creative effects, energizing effects. Those terpenes will inspire different reactions in your body, different pain relieving effects or things like that that might be associated. And also, often when we are experiencing chronic pain, like with arthritis, that can really get us down. That can get us stressed out, knowing that we've got a big day of errands ahead of us and things like that. The entourage effect of cannabis can really help with all of the symptoms of your main condition of arthritis that's causing the depression or anxiety and things like that. And just to hit on it, terpenes are not only found in the cannabis plant, they are found in plants and in some bugs all throughout nature, honestly. So they are the essential oils is mostly how we're familiar with them.
Let's dig down on that. But before we do that, it's really important to point out that indica and sativa are types of plants. But over the last 5 and 6 years, there's been a lot of work being done to actually breed types of plants that really address different conditions, to the point where, and those are called hybrids. And you'll see a lot of hybrids that are on the market. And what's interesting is a lot of people will say, well, I need an indica or I need a sativa. There are indica leaning or sativa leaning areas, but it's important to really look at the strains that you're looking at as well as the terpenes, because in today's medical cannabis business, those do more for you to help with your condition than anything else. I know that it sounds odd, but everybody says that sativas get you all excited. Yet one of the best products to help you sleep at night is one that your Surterra makes, and it's listed as a THC product. It's called Dream. Okay, it's called dream for a reason. It helps you get some sleep. So by putting the different terpenes in place, and then having the combination of these different strains, it helps produce a condition that addresses what's there. And
Absolutely.
also,
We're now able to hone our cannabis-based medicines that are ratio specific as well as strain specific
mhm,
to meet that end condition.
yeah,
So really when you're asking about indica and sativa, you're looking for different energizing or sedating effects. And to your point, there's a lot of hybrids that can satisfy that are leaning one way or the other as we continue to breed excellence.
sure. Let's get into some. You talked about terpenes. Terpenes are really important because as the various strains are being developed to address particular situations, they're also being tied to terpenes. And really, terpenes are like the gas in the engine. Why don't you explain a little bit about terpenes, their effect, and who does what? Because when you're looking at something to help your body, like for example in anti-inflammatories, it's important to not just look about the strain, indica or sativa, but also to look at the terpene profile.
Oh, absolutely. And one of my favorite terpenes is jumping off the screen to me right now, alpha pinene. And one of my most favorite things to do is to tell folks when you walk through a pine forest and you take a deep breath, that over expansion of your lungs that you feel, that really great rush of air is also aided by the pinene, the alpha pinene in the pine trees that are around you. And that's also because it's an anti-inflammatory, it's a bronchodilator. It is helping to expand your airways. And so, it's one of those powerhouse terpenes, I guess you would say. But beta carotene is more of a peppier, a more peppery terpene, and it's found in certain strains that we carry at Surterra Wellness stores, for instance, like Gorilla Glue Gelato has a good amount of beta carotene, and that's also an antibacterial, as you can see, anti-anxiety, antifungal, everything. But myrcene as well, that's found in mangoes a lot of times. And we end up brewing different kinds of teas, like with beta carotene, which is found in black pepper, cinnamon, things like that. And then mango myrcene types of teas to help folks experience what terpenes can really be like aromatically, as well as in the products that they're about to purchase. But myrcene does an interesting thing where it also amplifies the effects of THC. So again, that's the entourage effect of terpenes and cannabinoids working together, and understanding the balance of that relationship is really where cannabis-based medicine gets its sweet spot, or finds it rather.
Yeah, I mean, when I first got involved in medical cannabis, I actually was when I actually became a user. I shouldn't say got involved. When I became a user, I was in an auto accident and totaled my car, rear-ended. And what it did was I ended up with herniated discs in my back, two of them, and 7 herniated discs in my neck. And obviously, I tried some pharma drugs for about 2 days, and literally was so loopy I couldn't hardly even sit on the couch. So I turned to medical cannabis. And one of the things that I was amazed with was when I went to the doctor, he made his recommendation. When I went to the dispensary, I went in and I told them my condition. And they looked it up and they said, okay, well, here's what we recommend for you. And they brought out a set of products. Now, if you've gone to a dispensary, you can see behind this here, there's a lot of products. And it's almost, I liken it. I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area. When we walked into those little Chinese shops that had all the drawers in the background, you describe to the person the problem and he'd whip up something for you. They literally can go back and they can figure out what's there. And so the first time I went, I wasn't bold enough to ask, but the second time I said, how do you know out of all these products what works? And at that time, the person behind the counter said, it's very simple. Based on your condition, we look at your terpene profile and we look at the strains and we found out the products that work for you. And that's very much like pharma drugs. You have a drug, you have a strain and a terpene designed to help with some very specific conditions that also can help with other conditions besides that one condition. But that this is medicine. This is science. This isn't just this isn't having a joint on the side and hope like hell it works. Let's put it that way. I think that's what you were pointing out with the various terpenes that are there.
Absolutely. And
We
it's
picked
also
up,
the intake methods as well. And oh yes, beta-carotene. But it's also the intake methods as well for terpenes, because certain types of products will have greater terpene profiles, and others will have smaller terpene profiles. So you're able to get in an inhalation product or a smoked product a greater amount of terpenes complementing those cannabinoids, rather than when you ingest a THC CBD product. It will have a smaller terpene profile, but different effects because of different intake methods.
sure, we'll get into intake methods in a minute, but
Yep.
tell me about Carol. These are some of the ones that for your, when to look at when you're going into a dispensary, you might ask if the product that they're recommending have these kinds of terpenes in there. So Kim, tell me about caryophyllene.
Sure. So beta-carotene is one of those powerhouse terpenes that I was just describing. It's found in black pepper and, as you can see, aroma, pepper, spicy, woody cloves. It's found in cinnamon and other types of spices. So it's a really powerful treatment for chronic pain. It aids in sedation for that as well. It can help with depression and insomnia, which is often spurred by depression. Again, sister kinds of conditions. So it's more of a prevalent, when I say powerhouse terpene, it's prevalent in cannabis strains. And something else that we want to remind ourselves with all these terpenes, and yep, myrcene there, with all these terpenes, what makes the cannabis plant so different from other strains, differentiated by itself, are the terpene profiles. And the cannabis plant, when it's cultivated, it kind of sucks up everything that's around it. It takes on the attributes of the soil, of the things in the environment in which it's cultivated. So that's why you get these varying strains that will work differently for other folks, depending on who they are. And I got to stress on this particular webinar that the endocannabinoid system is incredibly individualized for every single person. So what works for you might not work for someone else.
Sure. Tell me about myrcene.
Myrcene, yeah. So we briefly touched on it on the other slide, but myrcene, you've got a picture of mangoes very aptly. It is a kind of an enhancer of THC, myrcene, and in greater amounts, it can help with pain, inflammation, and it's also found, yep, lemongrass and thyme. Common things that we find in our medicine cabinets, we find in our backyards, in our home gardens and things like that. There was once an event that I was doing for us. We were sponsoring the Florida Association of Counties early on in the marketplace. And we're first pioneering Florida, and a little girl runs up to Surterra Wellness's table and she says, "Mommy loves essential oils. Daddy, come here and look at this." And I motioned to Daddy that this is a different kind of essential oil, but I'm more than happy to send him with a for sure. But yeah, it's just, that is an example of how common these different types of molecules have been in our lives this whole time.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's something that's again, it's something that when you look at these various terpenes, you find them again in essential oils, and you kind of know what the effect that they have. But it's really interesting that you can get it through cannabis. Tell me about limonene.
Limonene is incredibly uplifting. Limonene is wonderful. It's citrusy. It's exactly in the name. It's commonly found in lemons and other types of citrusy kinds of fruits. But again, it's uplifting for different types of depression and anxiety. But it's also helpful for, and again, most of the cannabis plant does work for all of these types of things. So depression, anxiety, pain, inflammation, they all end up being tied together. So the limonene terpene is another one of those really prevalent ones.
One of the
Mhm.
mood enhancers that helps quite a bit is linalool.
Absolutely. Linalool is actually, I taught yoga moons ago in college, and we would put lavender linalool oil on just hand towels to help with our meditation 10 minutes at the end of our session hour. So for linalool, it's also something that I've used personally when I've been pregnant, and just rub some lavender on my wrists to help me sleep. It helps with sleep and anxiety, any kind of worries. It's a very calming terpene.
Sure, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's get into, you mentioned dosing earlier. Not only is it important to look at the strains and the terpenes, but also how you take it is really important. And there's a lot of different ways of taking a product. I know that when I got into the market, a lot of people said, well, I'm not sure I want to, sit down and smoke a joint. We obviously are well past that today. There's a lot of other ways of doing that, but there's sublingual drops, vape pens, a number of things, edibles. Let me go over here. Tell us a little bit about. Well, let's back up a little. Tell us a little bit about those.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There are dozens of intake methods. And when we first started dispensing in Florida, Surterra Wellness, we carried vaporizer pens, our tincture oils there that you can see as a representation.
Here, I think these talk about it here, the different types of the different types of
Absolutely.
methods here.
Absolutely. So let's hit on the larger ones. So there's inhalation, there's oral routes of administration. You can dose sublingually under your tongue with a tincture oil. You can apply it topically for targeted relief. There's no psychoactive effects because the THC doesn't make it through the blood-brain barrier there. So it's not absorbing into your bloodstream. And there are transdermal patches that will help that absorb into your bloodstream and have a more long-lasting effect. Different intake methods. It's not about not just about how you dose and how you apply, but it's also about how long the effects last, how quickly the relief onsets. So there's a bell curve. And when you talk about an inhaled product of any sort, be it a vape or a smoke or anything like that, there's going to be faster relief felt much quicker because it's hitting your lungs and being absorbed quicker into the body. But then if you ingest a product like one of our tincture oils or a lozenge or some kind of edible product or something like that, those products will take a little bit longer to take effect. However, they'll have a longer duration of relief. And pardon me, my father was a fighter pilot, and I'm also Italian, so my hand gestures are a little. I'm so sorry. I know it's a plague. Yeah. So a little bit about Surterra and the various products that we offer. So actually, if you go back to that last one, yeah. Nope. Oh, sure. Yeah. There. That's perfect. Okay. So for Surterra Wellness, whenever we say Parallel, that's our parent company, right? So we are Surterra Wellness in Florida and in Texas. We are New England Treatment Access in Massachusetts, and we are the Apothecary Shop in Las Vegas. But in this picture below, you can see what the heart of each of our stores looks like in Florida. And they number 39 across the state from Panhandle to Miami. And it's based around that kitchen table. And we have a lot of our patient consultations at the kitchen table if folks are open to it, private consultation rooms, absolutely. But we offer a wide breadth of brands and products in our Surterra Wellness stores. So right over here, in fact, you can see a representation of one of our newest products. It's a sublingual drop, a hard drop that's kind of like a cough drop. And yeah, hold it under your tongue. It absorbs into your oral mucosa, and then it also, you can swallow the rest of it and ingest it. But it will have a longer lasting effect, to my point earlier about ingested products. And it's more convenient sometimes than a tincture oil might be for someone suffering from spasms, for instance, or has too much pain to actually make that maneuver. We've got tons of options, which is another huge benefit of cannabis-based medicines. And actually down below, you can see a representation of our lotions. We have lotions offered in a 12.5 CBD ratio to 1 part THC. That's our Calm lotion. And then we also have a 1-to-1 part CBD to THC Soothe. So that Soothe lotion would have a little bit more pain relief in those targeted spots on your body as you're dosing with ingested products to help with pain and inflammation there. So yeah, it's a lot of exciting products, and we've got more exciting products coming down the pike as well.
We have a question. Charles was asking, so I have joint pain in two left index fingers that prevents him from playing golf. Is cannabis cream available to help with this?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so if you've got that pain specifically, I would actually talk to your physician about possibly trying our Soothe lotion for that more targeted pain relief. So our calm lotion with that higher CBD content, it helps more with redness, rash, irritation, things like that to calm down that inflammation. But the Soothe lotion helps with more targeted pain relief with a higher THC content.
Yeah, I would highly recommend taking a look at it. And what I like about a lot of your products is you have different ratio products. You have 1-to-1, which is 1 THC to 1 CBD. You have, so you can have 1-to-1s. You can get 1-to-4s. 1-to-9, 1 CBD, 1 THC to 9 CBDs. So what I'm trying to point out is there's a number of different ratios that you can take a look at to really go in and target. Charles, I want to point out, I actually had a knee replacement. And it's not my fingers, but it is my knee. But obviously had a lot of pain and swelling. And the topical creams I did take. Obviously, I took. I have a daily regimen I took of both CBD and THC to address the pain and inflammation. But the topical oils helped me quite a bit to get back to playing golf. So, and it's something, golf is near and dear to my heart. And I thought I would never play golf again.
I couldn't imagine a world where you did not play golf, Marc. That would be a sad world.
Yeah.
Our ratios are on the next slide, to your point there. So Surterra Wellness, when we first started and opened our stores, we also started with our flagship Surterra Wellness product brand. And so if you go back to the previous slide with the chart, the dosing chart there, it will have, you can see a graduating scale of psychoactivity for each of those ratioed products. So we're talking about ratio-specific cannabis medicine as well as strain-specific cannabis medicine. We started with ratio-specific because of the consistency that it offers. It also helps a lot of folks who are new to cannabis medicine, who might not be familiar with the variability that comes with cultivating strain-specific medications. So it starts down here with Tranquil, our highest CBD product, and the various cannabis intake methods associated. So up to Calm, Serene, and Soothe. Soothe is our 1-to-1 ratio, all the way up to Relief and Dream, which have higher THC contents.
By the way, you'll get, I know these are sometimes hard to read because they're on a slide, but you'll get a follow-up email that has a video, a copy of a YouTube video of this broadcast. It has the slides. It also will give you these charts. So you can be able to actually look at them on your computer yourself. So if they're hard to read, don't worry about it. We'll get you that information. Because Tranquil down here is 19-to-1, where over here with the Dream products, they're 9-to-1. So it's 9 THC to 1 CBD. So that's the ratios that you see that are in here. And Soothe, which is in the middle, is 1-to-1, right in here.
That's right.
Back in there.
That's right.
That makes
you guys will have all the information at your fingertips after this recording.
Right. Mm-hmm. So one of the other questions that we were asked, that this may not have to do with this, it just says, how long are fatty acids stored in your system? The cannabis stored in fatty acids.
Yeah, and I mean, you could take this too, Marc. It's a very common question, but it depends on your.
It really depends on your body. Some people store them longer than others. You've probably heard that people have been tested. They've stopped taking cannabis and then they get tested like a week or two later or a month later, and they still have it in their system. Classically, it takes, in the worst possible case, it takes about 2 months for cannabis to get out of your system, classically, okay? Some people have it exit their system in a week to 2 weeks. Some people have it stay longer. And again, it just depends on literally the makeup of your body. So that's typically how long it's there. But in my particular case, for example, I can take some cannabis and I know that the next day, if I'm doing something the next day, I know that it's kicking in because I hadn't taken it yet, but I had done something that helped kick in the medical cannabis and it comes into play. So
yeah, if you're a daily consumer, it'll definitely take longer to leave your body. And if you also have a greater amount of fat content as well in your body mass index, that could be affected.
Right. Mm-hmm. If you're a chunky chicken like myself, it does take a little while for it to get it to go away. That's out there. And I hope that answers your question. One of the other questions that came up, which I think is a really good question. John, you asked a question about strains. I'm going to answer, John Phillips, I'm going to answer that for in just a moment. I'm going to show you a slide. But let's see. So Carol asked, she said, when is Florida going to produce edibles with a combination of CBD and indica? The indica helps with pain, and CBD with anti-inflammatory, which would be great for osteoarthritis. They have this in California. I think we are producing edibles, aren't we?
Yes, we are. The Florida Department of Health released rules for production of edibles in late August, early September. So we are all moving hard and fast to also offer that intake method. And in terms of a CBD product that is, indica dominant, again, that's speaking back to the terpene profiles that are in various strains. So there are going to be higher CBD edibles, there's going to be higher THC edibles, and I would keep your eyes open for that coming out of Surterra Wellness pretty soon here.
Yeah, I should point out the regulations, or the dispensaries waited a long time, almost 2.5 years after Amendment 2 passed, to really get the rules and regulations. And you really can't produce anything until you get the rules and regulations. So the edible products are right now coming into the dispensaries. They're actually physically arriving in the dispensaries right now, and really they're only just the initial products. So, but I'd say between now and Christmas, you're going to see a lot of new products coming out, especially in the edible category, not only just from Surterra, but I should mention from other dispensaries as well. I've been privy to, and I've seen a number of CBD edibles high in CBD as well as high in THC. So I think you're going to find again, I would talk to the various dispensaries, I'd take a look at them, and I think you'll find that it's almost like if you do this research now, 2 weeks from now, it's going to be very different because more products are coming on the line. But to answer
Well,
your
give us your
question directly,
feedback as well.
we have
Yeah.
them today, and
Mhm.
you'll see more of them in the market over the next quarter.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the dispensary side, patient feedback is incredibly important. So we can't operate without patient feedback. And the beautiful thing about the cannabis industry is that we're able to implement patient feedback pretty quick, as opposed to having to go through the FDA. So we're able to assess demand, assess what physicians and patients are asking for, and pivot accordingly. So please give us that feedback.
One of the anonymous attendees asked, "What Surterra products, because what products and dose is best for arthritis pain? Are there any specific ratios to look at, like 4:1, 9:1, 1:1, anything like that?"
Yeah, so a lot of arthritic patients that come in through our doors, they express a lot of success with our Calm and Soothe lines in the Surterra Wellness product brand. In terms of, and that would be orally ingested products as well as our topically applied lotions at the same time. I've heard a lot of success with the dual regimens, depending on the nature of your arthritis. And in terms of our strain specific medicines, we are carrying 2 strains that can have different effects depending on what you're looking for. So there's a higher THC strain called Gorilla Glue Gelato, and that's going to help with sedation, sleep, pain, inflammation, and it's specifically indicated for arthritis as well. And then we've also got Cosmos, which is a CBD dominant strain, extraordinarily popular and powerful in terms of CBD content. And we've touched on that quite heavily, that is a very strong natural anti-inflammatory that would help as well. So good question.
Yeah,
Also, I would encourage you to come in and ask any of our guides in our stores like
yeah,
this
and
one.
I think it depends on your body. But again, I'll go by with what you've seen. A lot of the patients that I work with, I think both the Soothe and the higher the higher CBD products have been very good to help with arthritis quite a bit. I know because of the pain, people tend to go to the high THC products, but really the pain is coming from the inflammation. And if you can control the inflammation, then that helps you control the situation that's there. I know that Nona started with a 1:1, and then she actually started using more of a calm type product to be able to address her particular situation. So again, I'm not recommending any products per se, but I say you should try it yourself and find out what's there.
And I can see Joanne's question just popping up too. Patients can purchase more than one type, so you can dose with something that's CBD dominant first. Well, actually, maybe even THC dominant first thing in the morning to help you get out of bed with the pain that's associated with that kind of rickety feeling of getting your slippers on. But then dose with CBD throughout the day. The importance of CBD cannot be stressed enough to be able to combat that inflammation, just to what Marc was saying. But if you're looking for other effects at different times of day or different days, depending on the challenges, that is another one of the beauties of cannabis-based medicine.
We should point out, and I think maybe we didn't cover it, but I think we should. You can mix and match dosing methods and types of products. And let me give you an example. In my automobile accident, I was rear-ended and I have 2 herniated discs in my back, but I have 7 in my neck. You know, when a doctor comes in and says, you're now my PB, I've never seen a personal best as far as number of herniated discs in the neck, seen 6, but never seen 7. That's not what you want to hear. I have a lot of pain in my neck. And if I don't, before medical cannabis, I would wake up in the morning literally in a level of pain of a 7 or an 8 from in my neck. And typically within 3 minutes, I get that down to below a 1. Now, how do I do that? I take I take a product that's high in THC and low in CBD. Like, in fact, I was using Zen, to be candid with you. Okay, I would take some drops, but they would take 20 minutes to 30 minutes to work. And while they were beginning to work, I would actually grab a vape pen, and I grabbed a vape pen that was high in that was basically high in the THC. And literally, after I took 2 hits from the vape pen, literally within a minute or two, my pain level went from a 7 or 8 down to a 1. I mean, it happens immediately. And the first time that happens, I mean, I looked at my wife and I said, "What is going on? This is like somebody took a rag, wiped my back, and the pain went away." And even this morning when I did it, it's I'm always amazed at how fast that works. But you can mix and match. In my case, I'm trying to address inflammation and I'm trying to address pain. And so I have a regime to address inflammation, and I have one regime to address pain. Now, I've also, because of my age, had a left knee replacement, of which I did not take any after the operation. I did not take any pharma drugs. I was working with Jewett Orthopedic with 6 doctors over there. My main doctor was Dr. Richard Constance, and we actually worked together. And I actually used medical cannabis literally when I left the hospital in the parking lot. I took my medical cannabis there, and before I hit the street, my pain level was below a 1, the lowest it had ever been that was out there. And I was able to maintain that even up to today. And it was a matter of, I take it in the morning, I take it in the middle of the day, and I take it at night, both for my back and my knee. But it gets me to a point where I'm not stoned, I'm not high, but I'm able to have pain relief and get my life back. That's what I put it. I
You're
think
able to function.
you can mix it. You can mix and match these things. Let's go back to a couple of other questions. Will CBD affect blood pressure and cholesterol and your medications? So how about if you're on blood thinners?
Yeah, actually CBD can sometimes have a negative effect with certain blood thinners in particular. There have been, there's documented research on that. So the best thing to do is to ask your recommending physician that's recommending cannabis, as well as your physician that's treating your condition.
Yeah, I think the answer is some people are worried about being able to take blood thinners and cannabis. You can do that, but you have to adjust. You have to know which blood thinner you're on, first of all, and then you need to adjust your medical cannabis regime for that. So it's important that your medical doctor, as well as your medical marijuana doctor, work together to get you the ratios that are out there. Because remember, cannabis is carried through your bloodstream, and the bottom line is because you thin your blood, you don't want the cannabis to be be too strong. You want to be able to get the effect that's out there, and that's what they're trying to regulate. That's out there. So the answer is yes, you can. But again, talk to your doctor, talk to your medical cannabis doctor. In many cases, I know that a lot of people worry about can I talk to my medical cannabis doctor because they're hard to reach sometimes. That's one of the reasons I work with MMTC, Medical Marijuana Treatment Clinics of Florida. I work with a lot of doctors in Florida, not just them. But the reason I work with them is because they have a call center. And if you have a problem, you can pick up the phone and call the call center. It puts you into a practitioner because the doctors are sometimes busy. And if they need to reach a doctor, they'll do that. So you can reach your doctor and get answers, especially if you're at a dispensary and the dispensary personnel and yourselves are trying to figure out what's going on. This gives you the capability to talk to your doctor, which is really important. So the answer is yes. Get your doctor involved. You pay the money to get to get your license. You should be able to get the referrals that are out there. So hopefully that answers the blood pressure question.
There was another question about how to actually access this medication. And in Florida, when we say talk to your recommending physician, we're saying talk to the physician who is qualified to recommend cannabis in the state of Florida by the state of Florida's law. So there are about 80,000 doctors in the state of Florida. You might not have your family practitioner might not have the qualifications to recommend cannabis. There are about 2,400 who are qualified. statewide. You can go to Surterra.com. Our physician locator has where you can enter in your city or your zip code and find a physician who's qualified to recommend nearby you. But something to keep in mind is that because cannabis is not covered by insurance, it's paid out of pocket at this time. So that would also include office visits and the cost of the product. So something to keep in mind when you're calling to book your appointment with a recommending physician.
Yeah, one of the questions that Elizabeth brought up is her medical doctor won't work with her or medical marijuana doctor. And unfortunately, we still run into that situation here in Florida. Do you have any comments on that? Because I have a few comments I'll make on that subject.
There are some very conservative physicians out there who are unwilling to explore what cannabis can be doing to benefit their patients. They're unwilling to explore it because maybe they haven't done the research themselves. There's a wide breadth out there that they haven't touched. And so, yeah, sometimes we will encounter that with patients, and it's a sad situation. But recommending physicians, they're physicians themselves as well. And you're going there to seek their advice. And oftentimes with our powers combined with, us on the producer side, as well as the physicians, we're able to help those patients navigate their cannabis treatment just fine. But in terms of working with their traditional doctors, yes, there are a lot of those who might have closed ears, even still today.
It exists in the market today. I'm not saying it doesn't. It's a tough situation for you because obviously you want to keep you want to still work with your doctor, but if he's not open to medical cannabis, he's really not following his Hippocratic oath and looking at all the alternatives that are out there. But that's neither here nor there. I would say either change doctors or see if you can work with people. Like if you work with the MMTC doctors, they are qualified medical physicians. In other words, they are MDs. So in many cases, we're not trying to take your doctor out of the loop. But if they don't want to be in the loop, then you still may want to rely on the MMTC doctors or the doctors that have their licenses that are there. Joan asked a question: as someone like herself that is immune compromised, is she able to talk to some people over the phone from your stores?
Oh, absolutely. Our customer care line, Joan. Yes, Joan. That number is 850-391-5455. So you can reach out to us anytime, ask us questions. You can reach out to me directly. My email, khawkes, HAWKES @liveparallel.com. Reach out to me anytime, but our customer care line is always available.
Now we have one other question that came up from Dawn. I was told at my Surterra store that Dream is an indica, not a sativa strain. Is that true?
So Dream is crafted to be more like an indica strain. It's specifically crafted, again, it's ratio specific versus strain specific. So that is a ratio specific product that is best for sleep and sedation and insomnia and things that you're trying to treat with an indica dominant product. Yes.
I think where the confusion comes in is that the actual plant that is grown is a sativa plant. However, as they go through the process of producing the product, it ends up losing a lot of those properties and gaining a lot of the properties that you'd find in an indica, especially as they mix in the terpenes and things. Hence why they use hybrid to really provide a how should I say, a indica type effect for you. And it has to be listed as indica if that's the plant genome it comes from. But what it actually does and how it works is what they're describing as more of an indica type product.
Yeah, we definitely craft the cannabinoid and terpene ratios to make a profile specific to the condition that you're suffering. So for Dream, it's there to help you dream.
Yeah. One of the other questions that came up is, are there blends or strains known to help RLS, the restless leg syndrome?
Definitely, there can be strains and things that are indicated for that. But for restless leg syndrome, there's a lot of spasm, and that is best combated with CBD, with cannabidiol. There's a lot of pain, again, with THC. So I would say start low, go slow up that psychoactivity scale. Start with a CBD dominant product. See if you graduate to greater relief up or down that scale, and find what products can work for you. And then you can graduate to maybe strain specific medications. And again, strain specific medications can be CBD dominant or THC dominant. It just depends on the particular strain. And there are variations of the cannabinoid profiles when you are consuming a strain specific product, just the way it's grown, the moisture content that it was exposed to, the light, the time of year, etc.
Yeah. I think that I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to go away from the presentation. I'm going to stop sharing that. And I'm going to share another part of my screen because I want to answer John's question about, and let me bring John's question into play. John said there are many strains that have many different levels of THC and CBD terpenes. How can the best strains be found for the problem without throwing a dart at the dartboard and the method? And I thought I'd show what they call the famous CBD wheel. Okay, because this kind of shows that there are components inside of the cannabis plant that are really helpful in certain situations. That's where the CBAs, the CBDs, the THC, the Delta 8s, and that kind of thing. You want to comment on that, Kim, or you want me to take it?
No, you can go ahead and take it. Absolutely.
So what I'm trying to point out, John, is that when you take a look at, for example, if you're looking for something to help you with sleep, you see that there are sleep aids over here, like CBG, that's found in the CBD products. But also, you also find it it's here, like in the Delta 9 products. What's interesting is, in many cases, by putting when they talk about the entourage effect, putting CBD and THC together, you're really getting 1 to 1. 1 plus 1 helps you. And specifically, you have a lot of it over here. You have a lot of inflammation that's being reduced over here. But also, when you take a look at a lot of the THC products over here, they also reduce inflammation as well. So it's a combination of the medical properties coming into play. CBD has about 108 medical properties, but THC and CBD together have over 450 medical properties. So that's where you find that's out there. So that it's not throwing dart. There actually is a dart board. Here's the CBD wheel. We'll include that. We'll include that in the follow-up material. But there's definitely, like I said, when you come into the dispensary and you say, I have this particular problem, they can actually use this wheel plus the terpene profiles to be able to hone in. It's not like going to a dartboard. They're going to hone right into what you need and what can help you.
Absolutely. And at Parallel, we're trying to narrow the scope of that dartboard, and we're engaged in a lot of exciting research into these minor cannabinoids specifically, and how they can best be, affected in specific conditions, and how they can be mass produced on a greater scale for greater relief.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the presentation there for a second, but John, I hope that answers your question, because I think I like yourself was very concerned initially about how do I find something that's going to be for my particular condition, and that was what was important to me. I needed to know exactly what was there, and that's what I found. It's what I found. It was there.
And John, with that in mind, we offer at Surterra, we've got a lot of different sizes of our products, so you can dose and see what ends up working and not have to break the bank.
Now, we were asked a question, are these products available in the UK? I think these are mainly Florida-based products. Is that right?
They're Florida-based products. That's correct. In the UK, I'm aware that they are trying to stand up what their medical cannabis program looks like. So this is all pertaining to the Florida market.
Right. I want to go over here to this chart for a second. I know it's busy. No, I mean, it's going to be hard to read for a lot of people. But I put it up for a reason, and it's really to answer questions like John's. Is there a dartboard that's out there? And the answer is, you kind of know from your terpene profile, and you kind of know from the strain profile what works for you. And then they get into different routes of administration. So there's a lot of science behind this. This is not necessarily like when you get in an airplane, you don't know how to fly. You have to know how to fly to get from point A to point B. But that's what the dispensary personnel do. They know these charts, they know this information, and this is where they can make the recommendations for you.
Absolutely. And you can do the math and see how many milligrams you're getting for each dollar with this chart. So I encourage everybody to study this after the webinar is ended. Definitely.
Yeah, and this will be an important follow-up material. I think one of the other things that's important to point out is some people look at this as, is it a fairy dust or a magic wand? I'm going to take this and everything's going to go away. This will help you tremendously, help yourself in a particular situation, but you still need to look at being able to talk to people about what's going on. You need to pay attention to your basic health care, your lifestyle, your dietary conditions. You know, if you're eating something that's causing a problem, taking medical cannabis isn't going to have it go away. You know, you gotta just pay attention to your body. Your body will tell you what you need to do and what you don't need to do. And I think that's important to point out. A lot of people need to be able to understand that's important. I do want to point out that there's a number of resources that we went out to produce this today. We went out and took a look at, and this is very well researched. And you'll get all this information again in the follow-up. This isn't hocus pocus. This is stuff that we know is out there. Now, you will find that most of it is from coming from Israel. It's coming from Spain. It's coming from Germany. It's coming from the UK and Canada. Canada is doing a lot of research now, and I do think that hopefully we'll eventually get our act together here in the United States and start addressing our medical conditions using cannabis. But right now, thank God that it's being done around the world. So let's open it up. Is there any other questions that are coming up that people might have? Let's see what's out there. I think we've answered most of the questions. So what I'd like to do at this point in time, do you have any closing comments, Kim, you want to make?
Oh goodness, my closing arguments, huh? No, but closing comments. Sorry, I've got a lot of lawyers in my family, but you know, I would just like to say that I've seen over the years a lot of patients suffering from arthritis, a lot suffering from chronic pain, difficulty, and I'm talking about the patients who, and I'm getting goosebumps right now, the ones who say, Kim, I just want to feel better and well enough to garden again. I want to play with my grandkids again. Those kinds of things I think we all take for granted. And, you know, being able to find natural relief that is not going to aid the opioid epidemic anymore, that is in fact putting controls in our state of Florida here to help prevent against something like that ever happening. The cannabis program here is really taking off. A lot of folks are finding relief, and in a state like Florida, it's just so important. But in every state where this video might be reaching, even the UK, you know, it's so important that folks can feel well enough to get out of bed in the morning. So it's our products, you know, Surterra Wellness in parallel, at the parallel level, we really find it as more of a responsibility to expand our operations, to get out there, expand access, and allow folks to experience the benefits of cannabis.
Yeah, I might want to point out that I know that there's some questions about the UK. I know that when I go to California, and I haven't been recently, obviously, because of the coronavirus, but I go out there to visit my family. I've gone to dispensaries and talked to them, and they're kind of amazed in many ways about what we're doing here in Florida. And I would show them in material like from Surterra and those folks, and ask what their equivalent products are. And so I would say, to answer your particular question, go out and bring this material in. Go talk to your dispensary. They may have equivalent products. They may not have the same names, but they'll definitely could have similar products. So feel free to be able to do that. And I know you asked a question about how could I get a certificate. I went to the Holistic Cannabis Academy, and you can look them up online. And if you send me an email, I'll send you their link. They have a great program. It took me about 18 months to become a cannabis practitioner, and you get tested. They're one of the few that I will recommend. In fact, there's only two that I'll recommend. It's one of them. They are recommended by 5 professional organizations, not themselves. One of the things you have to be careful about is you look at these certifying organizations, and the only person who certifies them is themselves. You know, University of Vermont certifies University of Vermont. Well, who are the outside people that are cannabis practitioners that recommend this? And that's what Holistic Cannabis Academy has done. It's a great program. It does take some time. I studied it in evenings, and like I said, it took me about 18 months. And fortunately, I passed the test the first time. But it's like the bar exam. Sometimes you got to take it a couple times. But again, send me an email and I'll send you that information. But I do know that it's something that cannabis is something, especially for arthritis, it's really triggered a lot by inflammation. And the more you can control inflammation, the better it's going to be able to help you with this particular lifestyle medical condition. So please, that's why a lot of the high CBD ratios that go on that particular side, that's why those particular products tend to be the better ones to be able to help with this particular condition. There is no black and white. There is no guarantee. There isn't any, because with your body, every person's body is different. This isn't like take 2 pills and I'll see you in the morning. I know that I'm very high. I'm THC tolerant. I can take a higher ratio of THC. I give a little bit to my wife. It affects her a lot more. So we just adjusted the formulas for her, and so it's a matter of just really experimenting with it. Your dispensary will work with you on that. It's called dosing,
Absolutely.
and we have a seminar on dosing. I believe it's going to be in early December. We'll have a whole seminar on just dosing itself. But dosing is really important to really get it right for you. I can tell you, if you get the dosing right, you get your life back, and that's what's really important. We have some questions that are coming in now. Maybe we should take them. Kim, what do you think? Uh,
Well,
yeah. So one,
let's
one of the
see.
questions is, what
Okay.
strain would be
It
good for
looks
high
like he
anxiety?
might have been asking for CPD. I'm sorry.
Yeah. One question came up is, what strain would be great for a high anxiety due to bipolar disorder?
Okay, so I understand high anxiety very intimately. And I would say that there is a significant difference between sativa dominant products and indica dominant products. Oftentimes, sativa dominant products can exacerbate anxiety. It's important to, again, start low and go slow. THC, it can also exacerbate anxiety in higher doses. Best way to combat that, and higher doses of that. Again, it is a balance. As we were just products that I'd be happy to walk you through. Any number of our Surterra Wellness guides would be happy to walk you through.
Yeah, so the
And
answer is
again,
yes. You also
yes,
have people. You also have people at the dispensary that you can consult with. I think the important thing to understand is we don't need. If you're not getting the answer here, go talk to. Set up an appointment with Surterra Wellness consultant. They'll walk you through all of this. They'll personalize it for you, and I think that's what's great. They'll really help you personalize it and help you get the answer. They'll augment what the doctor is doing and really help you get the right medicines that are for you. And I think that's one of the advantages of dealing with a professional group like Surterra itself. Um, One of the other questions is Carol was mentioning that she took a gummy in California that was high in THC, a little bit low in CBD. It was called Restore. Does Florida have anything like that? I'm a new patient. The answer is yes. There are products like that here. There's a couple of them. I don't think you make what are you doing in the edibles category right
yes,
now?
actually, and there are. We just came out with a sublingual Theragel that instead of swallowing like a regular soft gel, you're able to burst it into your mouth, and it has this
It is.
rush of flavor
It's
and
right here.
effect. Where, yeah, there it is. It's right there. It has a rush of flavor and an effect that will it absorbs mostly inside your mouth in your ora mucosa, and then you can ingest the rest of it. But there are a lot of exciting products coming out, gummies, chews, all sorts of things. And for Surterra Wellness stores, I would be paying very close attention over the coming weeks.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I know you can't announce anything early, but as I mentioned, because that was the rules and regulations for edibles took so long to come about, only the product really starting to hit the shelf now. So I think you'll find over the next couple of weeks, Carol, you'll be surprised of the edibles that are here. And also, very familiar with the California edibles because again, going out there, I would sneak them back to Florida. To be candid with you, um, I think the edibles here are of equal, if not better, quality than what you're finding in California. And that's because we're regulated. The state regulates these, and I don't think the state of California regulates anywhere near as tight as Florida does. So it's something.
Yes, I would say that that is the benefit of having a vertically integrated
Yeah,
operations here in Florida. Each cultivates, produces, and dispenses their own products. So we have very tight quality controls on our products and their dispensation.
no, I
Yeah,
will tell
that's a
you
great
that
question.
Florida
And
does
I
have.
love comparing the different markets.
Yeah, I will tell you that Florida does have a lot of
I'm
controls
sorry.
on it. You there? Yeah, so Florida has some controls on the edibles business. One of the things that you'll find is when you go look at the edibles, they all look alike. There's very few colors. They're all the same size, and that's because the state of Florida didn't want them looking like candy, so the kids wouldn't start using them. So like I went and bought some edibles. I bought a raspberry one and I bought a guava one, and I thought I'd just mix them together. And I went, no, 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 I can't tell them apart because they all look the same. And I think that's what you're going to find in your stores. It's going to be hard to differentiate them because of the rules of Florida. Florida doesn't want them to be looked at as candy. They want them to be looked at as medicine. And so they have them basically anonymously labeled. That doesn't mean that the flavor's not there. And it doesn't mean that the efficacy is not there, but they are there. Okay. Ronnie asked a
Well,
question.
and
Go ahead.
labeled color, but that each edible in the state of Florida. Yeah, I think we're breaking up. It might be my connection, but I will say each edible in the state of Florida, though you can't differentiate with color and things like that, each of them is stamped with a universal THC symbol for easy identification for those with children in the house or anything like that. Each piece is stamped symbol. So again, the virtue of tight regulation, it really comes into play when it comes to patient safety. There's another question in the chat from Ronnie. Does cannabis help with menopause symptoms? And you know what, Ronnie, in general, the endocannabinoid system controls our hormonal system as well. So that is a really wonderful question that I think you would benefit asking a recommending physician in your area.
Yeah, the answer to your question is yes, it can help quite a bit. In fact, I think
that would.
Didn't Oprah Winfrey create a whole brand of products for that? I think Oprah Winfrey.
I mean, who didn't?
Yeah, no,
yes, I think she had a whole brand for products oriented for women. Yeah, and I believe that one of them was indicated for that.
Yeah, it's mainly for sale in California, but I'm just saying that I know that the answer is yes, it does. And talk to your physician, talk to your dispensary, and it can help quite a bit. I know it has a lot of reef in that area. So, cool.
Great question.
Well, we've gone through almost 20 questions. And more importantly, I want to thank everyone for not only attending, but I want to thank everybody for your great questions and taking the time to be able to go through this with you. We're available to follow up. You can do that, to contact, go to the Marijuana Aware website and you'll see the emails that are there. You can send us emails and we will follow up. Our objective is really to help you. And again, we want to thank you all for coming. And we want to thank you for being able to asking the great questions. And more importantly, tune into our webinars coming up. Marijuana Aware has a list of the different webinars coming up. We're doing a Meet Move next week. In 2 weeks, we're doing a Meet Surterra. We're going to do a deep dive into who Surterra is and your dispensary, how it works, the grow facilities, and really get down to really understand the inner workings and how this works. So you can see the magic. I think, John, you asked a question about, is it throwing darts at a dartboard? I think we'll help answer that question. You're going to find out there's a lot of science behind this.
Absolutely. And that webinar about meeting Surterra Wellness is November 18th. So
Right.
That'll be myself and one of our best store managers in the state.
Great. So Kim, thank you very much. Everybody who attended, thank you very much. I want to thank Deja and Lee. They're in the background helping me get questions answered and things that get out there. I do want to answer Tony's question. The answer is yes. This webinar is available. You'll get an email. It's going to be available not only on YouTube, but also you'll have a whole page that not only has the YouTube page, it has a copy of the presentation, but also the reference notes and all the reference material is also there too. So you'll be getting that's out there. So anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for the webinar. And more importantly, hope you tune in to the next Wednesday for the follow-up webinars. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark.